sure.
Morning, Valentine. Morning, Lagos. It's been a while.
How are you? A long time. I'm very happy to see you this morning. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm very, very great. A pleasure to be with you this morning.
Same here, man. Same here. Ikemesit is at Judge Ike on social media, so please feel free to engage with him on any story that interests you. You can find the headlines on our social media accounts on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. It's posted there. You find the flyer so you can get acquainted with the stories that we'll treat. Also send your comments through WhatsApp to 0809 444 0981. That's the number, 0809 444 0981. We are streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. So just simply go to YouTube and type smooth981FM Lagos in the search box, subscribe and watch. Also use that to leave a comment. We are expecting Mamuzo to join us anytime soon, but let's start, Ikemesit, with this first story. The story talks about the insecurity situation in Nigeria. I don't know what to make of this story because it seems like it's coming closer home, as expressed or as inferred through the body language of the police. The Commissioner of Police in Lagos, Mr. Hakim Odumosu, yesterday disclosed that policemen have been deployed to carry out 24-hour surveillance on schools and farms. What's to be made of that?
I mean, well, what it means is there is an active security threat that the police command here in Lagos is acting on, and that has informed this tweaking strategy. So the entire idea is to ensure that schools, and especially schools in urban parts of the state and farms in more rural parts of the state, are as secure as possible. So the police said it has established synergy between schools, parents, communities, and other security agencies in the state on the need to improve the existing security infrastructure in various locations to forestall any attack or ugly incidents. If you look at what's going on in parts of the country with this mass abduction, event, and even just general kidnappings and abductions, it's sad that we have to reduce such things to a certain form of generality. One of the criticisms of the security authorities has been that there hasn't been enough proactiveness on their part in terms of, mapping out and scaling out these threats and doing all they can to forestall it. It's also, their work is also not helped by the fact that, in many of these states, you think Katsina, especially Katsina and, Niger and Zamfara, where, the most recent mass abduction events have happened. Those are pretty large states. Niger is, I think, Nigeria's second or third largest state by landmass, right? And so you've got lots of, ungoverned and, under-policed spaces, just because the security authorities can't stretch their, resources everywhere, right? And so it's really hard to do those mapping and scopings. It's a little bit different in Lagos because we're a much smaller state. It's much more urban. There is, much less space for these gangs and these criminal elements to operate. But the point is there's still space anyways, and people are always going to take advantage of that. And it seems as though, since the turn of the year, the country has been in a more heightened, the country is experiencing a more heightened state of insecurity. And, and that's what the police command is trying to deal with. And if everything they say, if we are to take them at their words, right, and they follow through on everything that they say, then I think it's a very commendable step on their part. Let's hope that, they walk their talk, right, on this, because, our properties, our lives, right, and, the economic integrity of the state is riding on, their performance.
Thank you so much for that, Ikemesit, for that solid background that you've laid. Mamuzo, I'd like your take. Thank you for joining us, by the way. Mamuzo Nwokoro, thanks for joining us on Freshly Pressed 981. I'd like your take. I can't hear you though. Your audio is
Can you hear me now, Valentine? Good morning.
Yes, perfect. Well done. Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. I'm sorry about the little.
No, that's okay. You don't need to apologize. I'm just happy you're here. So, I'd like your take on. I mean, we've gone through the story of insecurity and how the police in Lagos are acting to be proactive, which is a commendable effort. But help me understand this part of talking about farmlands and the concern about, how they can cover it. The first concern was raised about, the motorable nature of those roads leading to the farms. And then the farms that are registered or unregistered? Please clear that up for us.
Okay, so well, I'm happy that the government is at least taking this initiative, because indeed this is what every state government should be doing right now. Okay, so one approach the government wants to take is to buy motorcycles to the unmotorable farmlands to ensure that they are protected. And of course, the Ministry of Agriculture should ensure that all farms, whether small scale or big scale, should be registered with the government, because this is all about security right now. So whether you are having a small, farm somewhere behind your house or something, we need everyone to be registered. So I think the government should try and create a system whereby maybe they go to the farms to register them, in fact, because if you wait for them to come over to the government, it might be a slower process. So I think the government should go to the farms, register them, access the farmland, and then see how they can beef up security around this farm. So yes, motorcycles are a good way to go to the unmotorable areas of those farmlands to protect, the farms. I'm happy that Lagos State government is doing this right now, because for God's sakes, we've heard it over and again in the news. The federal government is not to be able to handle this security situation as much. So the state government should give it support as much as possible to protect the citizens and their properties.
Thank you for that. Let's go to the next story, Ikemesit. From the Vanguard newspaper, also as the first, we have this next headline, Open Defecation. That's a story here. Nigeria loses $3 billion annually to poor sanitation. This was made clear by Senator Clifford Odia, reminding us of the dangers of open defecation. But should I say I'm worried? But I'm wondering, this solution that he seems to be preferring, is this the way forward, seeing that we already have a Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Agriculture and Water Resources? He's mooting the idea of an establishment of a bill for an act to establish the Clean Nigeria Agency for this purpose. What are your thoughts on this? Do we need an extra agency to solve this problem?
Well, that's the easy part of this conversation. The answer is no. There are many initiatives, even on some of the CSO non-governmental side, that are geared towards addressing this issue of open defecation. And like you rightly said, there's an environment ministry that also has a clean water and a sanitation initiative. At the state levels, you've got a plethora of agencies spread right across all of Nigeria states, which are geared towards addressing that. You've got an environmental protection agency in Lagos, for Christ's sake, that whose responsibilities can easily be expanded to to cover this. But to talk about the scale of the problem is really significant. Right now, Nigeria is the leading nation in the world in terms of the number of people who practice open urination and defecation. And this is an issue even in places like Lagos. I cannot enumerate the number of times I'm on my way to you. I'm on my way to the studios right in Victoria Island, and on Marina, outer Marina, with the club of traffic. Yeah, exactly. Or the walkways just beside. Right, the main road. There are people doing their business. They're on the roads. It's practically become a daily thing. About 46 million Nigerians do this consistently. We've overtaken India to be the world leader in open urination and defecation. And this is sad. I happened to have been in India in 2014 when it launched. Right, Narendra Modi, the current prime minister, had just come into office, and they launched a very, very aggressive effort to provide a toilet right to every Indian, and India has managed to significantly cut the number of people who practice these things. Right now, India has increased the number of families that have access to a toilet by more than 18 points over the last 20 years. In Nigeria, that number has declined, and we're now at 28%. We all know someone who lives in a face me I face you, where there's if there is a toilet facility in the premises at all, right, there's so many people using it, and it actually makes doing that business very uncomfortable. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. Kudos to Senator Odia for highlighting that fact. But this solution, in an era of austerity, in an era where government is finding it hard to fund every responsibility that it has, might sound good now, but it will not be. I doubt it will be sustainable in the long term. Every agency that we currently have right now, where we're mooting the idea of either consolidating or closing or having a conversation as to their relevance, was relevant and was important at some point, and that was why they came into existence. The Clean Nigeria Agency could very well be, towing down that path.
Thank you for that, Ikemesit. I really appreciate that analysis on that story. Let's look at the messages that we have in on WhatsApp. WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. Ace from Agos says, we have the NCDC or NSCDC, and they are also armed. Why not use them for this job instead of the police that already have so much to do and highly outnumbered? We are yet to get the full details of the personnel that will be involved in this operation in terms of providing security to the state, especially with schools and farmlands. Yeah, details does not include really how far reaching that is. But Emeka from Mamamoo says, the issue of open defecation have been talked about for a long time with little or nothing done about it. India had similar issues, like you mentioned, Ikemesit, and it's presently under control. Why can't we copy their model since we have similar demography? Ikemesit, thank you for that thought and that inference on India. Samuel from Lekki says, there are at least 3 public toilets along the outer marina. Go there now. They're all locked and turned to stores for weeds and homes for area boys. I once tried and it wasn't funny. Talking about personal experiences, eh? Let's go to this next story, Mamuzo. The Trade Union Congress has an interesting take on the federal government's move to fix or repair the Port Harcourt refinery that has been dormant for a bit. Billions of naira has been involved, or dollars actually, what am I saying naira? Billions of dollars have been sunk into this. Ateda Peterside, for one, spoke on a television program. He was on the National Council on Privatization between 2010 and 2015. He urged the federal government to halt what he called the brazen and expensive adventure. What's your take on this story and the TUC's reaction to this?
Okay, thank you, Valentine. Truth be told, TUC has a point, but then again, how realistic is their point? TUC is saying do not privatize, the refineries. But let's remember that the government has been putting in monies into the rehabilitation of these refineries, and we haven't been able to see significant development regarding that. So, I mean, we're still talking about refurbishing the refineries. So I would suggest that we go with Peter's side suggestion that the government should sell off the refinery. Of course, it produces about 210,000 barrels, per day, which means it has good capacity. But then you want to ask, the cost of refurbishing this refinery, it's $1.5 billion. I mean, that's a lot for us right now, given that we have a lot to deal with. And the only way to get this money is for us to go about borrowing, as the government has already stated to us. So rather than do this, I think we should privatize the refineries, or at least have some sort of form of concession where the government also has a bit of rights, and that is a private organization also handling the management of the refineries. Because if we truly want to tackle, this MPB issues that we've been talking back and forth about, I mean, whether to remove subsidy and all what's not, we need to understand that it has to be a slow and calculated process. It will not happen overnight. Of course, we feel the pinches when we import fuel into the country, and then we have to buy at increased prices. But if we are able to have a conversation with a private organization, and then we bring in modern tools into this refineries, we can, of course, refine petrol at a more convenient and less stressful weight on the government, because then there's a private organization who's also helping to manage or bear the weight. So I feel like the weight will be too much on the government at this point. And I don't know for TUC, I do not know why they're going that route. We need help, definitely, especially with funding. So we need to look at the private organizations to support the refurbishment of these refineries.
I don't know if there's any cost analysis that have been done on what it could cost potentially in realistic terms to fix the refinery, because I'm trying to figure out where the concern is coming from. Is it from a place of mistrust, or from a place of, oh yes, we've done this, we've gone down this road before and it hasn't worked, so let's try something new? Which of them?
Yes, of course, TUC was referring to how NEPA was privatized and that we're not getting enough value out of that initiative. Okay, that might be true, but you know what, Valentine, we have to look at this holistically. Can the government wade in quickly and ensure that those refineries are privatized? are refurbished. You must understand that government has taken this, has gone this route before, and we didn't see very much. We know how we're clamoring for accountability when funds are released, for projects, and then we begin to find where the money has gone into. If the government is going to guarantee that this money will be used for this process, for this project, then we will see. But we already know that we cannot trust the government so much when it comes to issues like this. So we're already smelling a rat about this one. $1.5 billion is a lot of money to be put into refurbishment of refinery, and given previous instances, we are not even sure how much of development will go into the work. We need modern equipment. Will the government guarantee that? But with privatization, at least the government becomes the watchdog over the private organization who will be handling the refineries. So I think there should be a collaboration of both government and private sector here, and it shouldn't just be left to the government alone, because I feel at this point the government cannot handle the refurbishment of these refineries, let alone the management.
And thank you. In closing, it's been interesting. I need to take Yinka's comment because it actually sparked another thought here. He says, I'm sure that there are staff of that refinery, Abi. That's where the problem lies. And I'm going to say, when you want to fumigate a house, you move the occupants out, for fumigation, and then leave them out for a bit before you bring them back in. But when you privatize, bringing them back in is another issue, because you have to consider whether the private company would like to retain the staff that have been laid off. Clear examples we can refer. But let's move on quickly to this next story. Ikemesit, motorists they have been groaning. They've been complaining about the sudden access, Mushin Isola Road, and the dreadful traffic gridlock they've experienced over time. What do you make of this story as expressed by The Guardian in the details?
Yeah, so the very good residents who live and work along that area, which, take note, is in a pretty industrial part of Lagos. So you're thinking the back end of the Ilupeju-Mushin industrial estate is, leads up to this road. And so for years and years, residents and businesses, right, in this community have complained about the deplorable state of the road. Really, really comprehensive reporting by The Guardian. It's worth checking out. And the call is basically for something to be done. So you've got remedial activities which have been done to make the road somewhat manageable for motorists. But every time the road reverts back to its old state. And the special assistant, for example, to the Solo local government development area was interviewed for the story, said, well, there's nothing else the local council can do on that level because that road is a state road. The finances of the local council wouldn't be enough to fix the roads. And, both he and the member of the House of Representatives that represents his Solo constituency 2, which is, which this area falls under, basically called on corporate organizations to chime in and work towards rehabilitating the roads. Quite interesting that no one is calling on the state government, even though this falls directly within, the state government's responsibility to fix these roads. But this is emblematic of a lot of things. You could take this Mushin Solo story and supersize it and apply it to probably 150 different communities in Lagos alone. Infrastructure is such a huge issue here in Nigeria. And, as Nigeria's commercial heart, right, and as the seat of the bulk of economic activities in this country, you would think that we'll take infrastructure a lot more seriously. Now, I know, and I should say this, that the state government has been doing significant work in terms of, road rehabilitation and remediation, especially for B and C roads. So basically those feeder roads that lead off of, main roads and expressways and four-lane highways over the past year, right? And, this might probably be on their radar, but it's very good to have these stories just to focus the attention of policymakers and the authorities to know that, yes, even though you might be doing work in a particular space, there's still, quite a lot of work to do because there are still people who have not yet been served or who haven't yet been touched, right, by those efforts that you're carrying out. So a very, very, very important public interest story right here, and, an important one to watch going forward.
Yeah. That's quite right. It's an important one to watch. Ikemesit, thank you for that. Let's take a quick message from JP on WhatsApp. He says, good morning, freshly pressed. The question I ask is, why is NLNG system not copied for the moribund refineries. Best practice seems lost on us. Feel free to comment on YouTube as well, youtube.com/smooth981fm, or just type in the search box on YouTube, smooth981 Lagos or 981FM Lagos, and you'd find us to watch. Shagun says, so did Peter Side advise the last government not to do their ineffective turnaround maintenance? I'm happy private companies, refineries rather, are coming up soon. This one here from Yinka says, or rather Yemi from Marina says, whatever they have to do to get those refineries working, they should please do. This is because by the time Dangote's become operational or becomes operational, it's going to be a monopoly on a very different level. The better option, of course, is to privatize the refinery and pass the PIB bill ASAP. Toby from Badagry says, I hope government will not privatize refineries by selling to their cronies in power like they did to NEPA. Bamidele Bende says, Mamuzo does not have the full story of the current project on PHRC or okay, no bashing here. Ace from Agos says, let's not wonder whether the $1.5 billion for the refinery will be utilized or well utilized for the project. Let's just ask what has been done with at least $3 billion arms money since 2014. If you ask me, seems like a 2023 campaign move. Abayami Akarakiri says, the refurbishment of the refinery is more of an upgrade. The major process equipment, distillation chambers, catalytic crackers or catalyst crackers, and all will be upgraded. A laser scanning will be done on the entire system. We should also note that Afrexim is financing this, not Nigeria directly. Abayami, I appreciate this insight. Thank you so much. So we like people like you joining us on the show. Sean says, why are they calling on organizations that are paying taxes through their noses and other licenses or levies? Nigerians are really funny with who they hold accountable for their problems. Osa says from Abulegba, good morning all. On open defecation, has it occurred to the government that a lot of people, or these people, sleep where they do the business? Basically, they don't have accommodation. Another agency for open defecation, another set people to be employed and pensioned, more money to waste. Jerry says, good morning, Val, Ikemesit, and Mamuzo. Please, the Lagos State government should paint the road curbs, demarcations, and light up the roads to curb incessant accidents experienced on these roads every day. Jerry, that's another point to note, because a lot of people do not understand the lanes they need to drive on. For example, Lekki Ekpe Expressway. Yinka says, when our government is inconsistent, let's not blame my uncle of monopoly. Speaking of uncles and those in government, let's talk about a Minister of Information, Minister of Mohammed, his last statement regarding Transparency International's rating of Nigeria. It seems like something has been giving him, sleepless nights, but he's commenting on it, which is good. But though I would like you to, make us understand or help us understand this, Mamuzo. He said that in clarifying Transparency International's metrics, I mean, they have these metrics that they give, right? KPIs that they give for rating countries, pretty obvious. But he's debunking. He says, it seems like, the Transparency International, the approach is to doing business, or particularly in the port sector, that some of their ranking metrics is bordered on corruption index and all those other things that we know, as well as other factors. But he said that he described it as opaqueness, that the development is attributed to opaqueness in doing business in the country. Do you agree with him? What do you make of his statement?
I do not quite agree with the Minister of Information. Look at this. It's quite funny here. And then he's saying that the reforms have been put in place to ensure that businesses are done more transparently, and that we should realize that we've scored very low in the area of ease of doing business, in particular because of opaqueness. Well, Minister of Information, Mr. Lai Mohammed, I will just quote him here again, where he said that the preventive mechanisms that were put in place include the National Ethics Policy launched by the ICPC to address integrity issues in all sectors of the policy, and directly linked to the pillar of National Anti-Corruption Strategy. He also added that the Code of Conduct Bureau has put in place some preventive measures, especially in the area of energizing the Code of Conduct for public officers. Now, it's one thing for us to say something, another thing for us to see what is being said. So I feel like here there's there is no collaboration between what is being said and what is being done. ICPC has been working, but we cannot. There are sure that there have been several cases where we have had to raise our eyebrows as to, how their policies are being played out. Like in his briefing, he mentioned that Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development, Sadiaq Farouk, said the meeting equally sanctioned 922.8 million for the project of liquid fertilizer. He's trying to give us, refer to situations where they actually defended their code of conduct. And then where he said NPK for the region of to Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states, ravaged by insurgency and the flood of 2018. The whole insecurity situation in Nigeria, it's a proof that we have a problem in our hands. And the root of our problem is what? Is corruption. We cannot lie about it. We just spoke about, refurbishing the moribund, refineries, and how that 3-point-something billion naira have been given to, a sector to refurbish that refinery almost how many years ago. We haven't seen anything from that monies. We've also had cause to worry about the 250 billion naira that was given to the security agencies, and now we still haven't seen equipment, that from those purchases. So I do not agree with Mr. Lai Mohammed saying that. It's just I don't know what openness by the what's it called again, by the intelligence group, saying that this is not a statement of fact that we are one of the corrupt nations in the country. Of course, we know what our problems are, and we should be truthful about it and then nip it in the bud.
Ikemesit, very quickly, right? Does this his own version of explaining Nigeria's rating, does it make a difference to you? And what could that be if it does?
It doesn't really, because looking at the story here, it doesn't really. He's referring to how that they had projects of 1,500 kV generating plant for the Abuja Environmental Protection Board at the cost of this, and then they had to review the cost of that.
Yeah, Ikemesit?
Yeah. So I like Mohammed's core argument, right?
Yeah.
There's
do
a
not
lot of work.
support the claim.
Sorry, Mamuzo, hang on, we lost you for a second. Ikemesit was taking on that, but let's switch for a bit.
Oh, okay. So his core argument is that a lot of the work that has been, that the government, has been doing, especially in the area of clean and open governance, right, will take some time to filter through. And that's one thing that Transparency International hasn't taken cognizance of. And as that work, as those reforms begin to yield results, that the nation's corruption perception index will improve. For me, it's a bit of a step up that Lai Mohammed has actually sat down and gone through the pains of engaging on the merits of the argument, as against what he does every year in terms of trying to impugn the credibility of Transparency International and Amnesty International. So progress by Lai Mohammed standards.
Thank you, Ikemesit. Thank you, Mamuzo. Thank you for that solid background you laid. The Guardian reports on a new move by the Cross River State Governor, Benedict Ayade, on the plans to cultivate a rare regenerative organic grass. It said it's called king grass, and they collaborate with the experts from Cambodia. Given the timeline for this grass from when it's planted to when it comes up, it sprouts, it's a very short time, within 45 days, to curb the restiveness and the attacks by headers and all that clash. What do you make of this story, quickly, please?
It could be a game changer. I love that Cross River is thinking creatively. I love that they are going out of their way to see how this could be a solution. This king grass project is currently being tried out at the Obudu Cattle Ranch, and if successful, Cross River will have the opportunity to scale this up. Where I would like to see more movement is in, how other states begin to deploy, this sort of creative thinking to trying to find local solutions to, that tension that farmers and herders have been having, over time. The government has tried to centralize this by instituting a national livestock transformation plan, but that plan requires states to donate land, right, to herders, and a bunch of states, mostly in the south, Cross River and Akwa Ibom, also, among states, and as well as Ondo and Abia, I think, that have raised reservations, amongst others. They want these herders to buy buy the land at commercial rates, because their argument, and it's a reasonable argument, is that if anyone wants to plant anything, if anyone wants to do anything agriculturally based anywhere in this country, you have to purchase that, right? So why are we exempting the headers? So it's great to see that Cross River is doing stuff creatively in this light, and hopefully other states take the cue and also not only look at this but also other means and mechanisms for trying to address these things within their boundaries.
This is awesome. This was awesome. I must thank you, Mamuzo Nwokoro. Thank you so much for making our time to be with us to share your insights on the stories this morning. And also thanks to you, Ikemesit, Effiong, at Judge Ike. Please, let's keep this conversation going. It continues, it doesn't stop here. All the way to 9 to 10 o'clock, we talk about these stories. We'll take your comments and your calls regarding any of these views you want to share for Lagos Talks 981. Ikemesit and Mamuzo, please have a nice day, all right? Talk to you soon.